Week 12 reaction in college football. The Oregon Ducks survive. Colorado and Georgia are out there thriving. We got to talk about the Big 12, ACC, and SEC playoff scenarios. Who should be left in or out? We got to cover some of these big lies and myths and conspiracy theories out there. And of course, all the game recaps, your best and worst of the week, and everything in between. Let's get to the show. So here we go. The best college football podcast there is around. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the Unafraid Show. So this weekend was incredible, dude. It was incredible because people fell under the weight of the pressure. And in November, it is hard to win in college football in November because teams are tired, they're hurt. You got to remember these kids are going to school. You got midterms, you're getting toward the end of the semester, there's pressure on school, and then there's pressure to win. And some of that makes teams crack. And also, we find out the other thing that really makes the teams crack and lose is just more. There's only so long that you can punch above your weight. Take, BYU, for example. They were the cardiac cats, just like Miami. And if you live on the edge, you are going to eventually fall off. And like Georgia was living on the edge. They were able to right the ship, though. But I did see Josh Pate post this, and this is a question, and this is one of the biggest lies in the world of college football. And because I've had people in the comments here on Unafraid Show. And speaking of that, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Unafraid Show, get notifications, etc., etc. And I'm going to give you a chance right now because the chat is open. The chat is live on YouTube. So you guys can make sure that you hop in there because I will get to it. And then click the share with somebody who loves college football like you do. So the question is that you face the number 24 team in the country and you win, and then you drop them out of the top 25. Is that still a ranked win? No, that is no longer still a ranked win because I have seen people when they get to talking about the resumes of, Texas and all these other teams are like, well, they actually have like 3 or 4 ranked wins, but the reality is that they knocked them out of the top 25. No, that's not how that works. That's the biggest lie, is that if you look at Texas's schedule, Michigan was ranked when they played them, and Oklahoma and Vanderbilt were all ranked when they played them. But you can't call Michigan a ranked win anymore. How? Michigan's lost like 5 games already, 4 or 5 games. What are we talking about? No, that is no longer a ranked game. Just because a team came in with preseason hypes and expectations. Okay, I'm going to give you a prime example. Is beating Florida State this year, is that a top 25 win? No. So stop talking about they were ranked when we played them. No, are they ranked as the season goes on? Because if you want to count it as a top 25 win, just because you played them when they were in the top 25, and then they go off and lose 2, 3, 4 more games, no, that no longer counts. It is in the now. This is why you are constantly getting information and evolving. And then I want to talk about another lie in the world of college football. And that is where we talk about these blind resumes. Because I have consistently talked about strip off the logos. Because BYU, with what they would have done, they would have been ranked significantly higher. But then we want to rely on history and our eye test. The eye test does matter. But the reality is analytics and numbers tell us a different story sometimes than what the eye test actually tells us. Now, numbers and the analytics told us BYU should be ranked significantly higher. And the truth is, had you watched BYU, you would have seen, man, they're barely squeaking by, barely. I really don't know how good they are, but you do know subconsciously that you can only squeak by so long without blowing people out occasionally. And as the season got on, once they got in the Big 12 play, things got tougher and tougher and tougher. So pay attention. We strip off the logos, but we also pay attention to what our eyes tell us. Like our eyes tell us, is Georgia a really good football team? Yes. But then the numbers, analytics, and their record says they're not an elite football team. Can they be elite on a particular day? Yes. But being elite is about consistency. And here is the next lie that we've been told in college football. Think about this. For years upon years, they tried to tell us the SEC. Listen, don't worry about the SEC being top heavy with Bama and Georgia. Because truth be told, there were so many years nobody could beat any one of them except, I'm talking about in the last like 10 years, except for like 2019 LSU. Aside from that, they have completely devastated and dominated the conference. But this year is different. And it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. Because this year, the SEC, the way the SEC used to look, is exactly the way the Big Ten looks. You have some elite teams at the top that nobody at the bottom of the conference can beat. Now, parity is good for the sport. I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of better schedules in the non-conference. Because people get to keep talking about, oh, Georgia's schedule is unbelievable. They lost the schedule roulette this year. They've won it so many times where their schedule ended up looking like Texas's this year. Sometimes you end up on the bad end. Sometimes you end up on the good end. And they will tell you, oh, all these 2-loss SEC teams. How do you think they only have 2 losses? Because you only play 8 conference games. If you play 9, this stuff will sort itself out even more and even easier and clearer for you. But here's the thing. The SEC people and, whatever conference that you're affiliated with, because when Oregon was in the Pac-12, I could see this as clear as day, where the Pac-12 would beat up on itself, and then the television would tell us, mainstream media would tell us, oh, they played themselves out and everything in between. But here's the thing. It's so funny because it happens in life all the time. Because we, as a people, are only tolerant upon things until we're not tolerant of things until they show up on our doorstep. Think about people who don't have kids. How many times have you seen people without kids, or even if you yourself didn't have kids, and you judged parents who let their kids be on their iPad at dinner? How many times? And now, until you get kids and a busy schedule, and you've been out to dinner with all by yourself or with your wife or your husband or whoever else, and you just need, listen, I just need 45 minutes apiece, just chill. Yes, kid. You can't have your iPad every day, all day, but this 45 minutes, you can play to hour, you can play to your heart's content because I need some peace and quiet and just enjoy my margarita right now. So you're tolerant of it only when it shows up at your doorstep. And there's some other examples of that. But we're going to get to the games this weekend. And you guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Unafraid Show, and most importantly, share. And go in there, get in the chat, leave a comment. We are going to cover this one. The Travis Hunter thing. When we get to Colorado, because a note came in the chat. Travis Hunter is the best player in the country. No, he's not right now. No, he's not. No, he's not. Hard truth about Colorado. Is he phenomenal for what he's doing playing both sides of the ball? 100%. But there are some hard truths to it. Am I tripping, or was USC ranked at 1.2? Yes, USC was ranked in the top 25 when they beat LSU. But I guess that's a ranked win for LSU too. I'm just saying. All right, so let's get to it. First game up, Tennessee versus Georgia, 31-17. And Tennessee finally allowed 20 points in a game on defense. And it is clear that they may need to hold teams under 20 points to win because this offense, in terms of the passing game, is problematic. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I said that if Nico Iamaleava is continuing to play like he did 2 weeks ago, then Tennessee is the best team in the SEC. But do you know what happened against Georgia? He went back to the guy who was under 200 yards passing. He looked like he was overwhelmed by a Georgia defense. He is only a redshirt freshman. Kid can turn out to be fantastic. But at this point in time, the Tennessee offense is here. The Tennessee defense is up here because that defense is good. However, though, this offense was barely over 300 yards. And yes, Georgia's defense did contribute to it. So you can't take anything from them. But this has been the same thing all year long. Anytime Tennessee has run up against anybody decent, their pass game has struggled. And even when they weren't playing somebody great, like take the Oklahoma game, pass game still wasn't exactly great. But on the Georgia side of things, though, Kirby Smart and his staff, they did a phenomenal job of making sure that this team was prepared because motivation this week was never going to be an issue because they were sitting on the outside of the 12-team playoff. So Kirby didn't even have to say anything to his team about, hey, yo, they're disrespecting you and manufacturing something like he would do when they were number one in the nation. Now he's like, oh, see, look, I ain't got to say nothing. That's what they think about you. And he turned Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He turned Dr. Jekyll into Mr. Hyde. And that is Carson Beck, his quarterback. Because the bad Carson Beck, Dr. Jekyll, he causes chaos and turnovers, which he had a 5-game stretch where he had 12 turnovers. It was awful. But then Mr. Hyde, against Tennessee, 25 for 40 for 347 and 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's the guy that they want to see all the time. But that's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this team is only going to go as far as 2 things go. First thing is this offensive line, because when you get pressure on Carson Beck, and yes, this is going to feel like an attack on Carson Beck, but it's the truth. And there are a lot of quarterbacks, and most quarterbacks struggle once you get in their face and when you get pressure. And Carson Beck particularly puts the ball in harm's way when you get pressure on him. So this offensive line for Georgia is going to be the difference in them winning and losing when it comes to the college football playoff, because unless they lose to Georgia Tech because they play Wofford this weekend, there is no way that Georgia misses the college football playoff. No way. If they lose to Georgia Tech, they probably will miss the college football playoff. But as of now, you can write them in Sharpie. If you need to get something to wipe your Sharpie off, that might turn out a different way, but it's most likely. Next game up, Oregon versus Wisconsin, 16-13. Lord, I was so happy for this game. And because there were 2 storylines to this for me. Number 1, survive and advance. Because to win a championship, you actually need to win games like this amongst the games where you blow people out. Because these are the games that teach your team character, that sees their intestinal fortitude, that tests it, that makes sure that they are, that they know how to respond when they get punched in the mouth, that they know how to respond when they're down, that they know how to respond when things aren't going their way. When you're just like, bro, we're just a little bit out of sync. And Oregon just completed a grueling stretch of 8 games straight with no bye. Not just 8 straight games, 8 straight Big Ten games, including 3 games that were across 2 time zones and one of them on short week. So the team is tired. And they have a bye week this week. It's time to rest up and recover. But you know what? It feels a lot better to rest up and recover at 11-1. Because had Oregon just marched through the rest of their schedule, winning every game by, 18, 21, 25, 30 points, that doesn't give you that test. That doesn't give you You need to respond. And they had to respond in that game. And big ups to Wisconsin, because the thing that they didn't do against Iowa, they licked their wounds. They licked their wounds after getting shellacked by Iowa, came out with a whole new defensive game plan to go against Oregon's pass game, and it worked. And it worked. But the second storyline from this game is that defense travels. Defense travels. The Oregon Ducks only gave up 96 passing yards to Wisconsin and 130 yards rushing on 3.8 yards per carry. Now, that is the sort of effort that is going to keep you in football games. And when we watch it, think about when you watch an unranked team or a team like Wisconsin had, a 4-loss team, and they're playing a team that is very highly ranked, a top 5 team. The majority of the time, what happens is the game is super close, because you can't blow teams out like that. The game is super close. And it looks like there's a potential for an upset, but everybody knows in the back of their mind, if you don't score, if you don't get a little further ahead, this ain't going to happen. This ain't going to happen. You are going to end up with an L. And that's exactly what Oregon did. And I was proud of them. And this is the type of win that the number 1 team in the nation gets. Now, I want to cover something that a lot of people said was stupid in this game. A lot of people said that Dan Lanning going for that fake field goal up 3 with a little under 2 minutes to go, instead of going up 6, it was stupid, harebrained, galaxy brain play. It was terrible. It was dumb. No. Bring it in real quick. This is an education moment. Now, if it were up to me, I would have left the offense on the field if I was going to go for it on 4th down. That's first thing. Second thing is, if you watch the play, it was drawn up perfectly. Perfect look, everything else, bad execution by one person. If the tight end blocks instead of taking this big looping wide and just goes straight at the defender, are you kidding me? Do you know what ends up happening? The kicker knocks his head on the goalpost. It is an absolute touchdown. So that's the first thing. And then, but the reason why you go for it there is for 2 reasons. Number 1, the scenario. You are late into the game. Your defense is playing extremely well. And check this out. If you are up 3, let's say that all you smart people out there, you kick it, you go up 6. Now you kick off. Got a chance for a return, first of all. Second thing is that if the team is down 6, how are they going to play? They are going to be hyper aggressive. That means 4th downs, aggression is on max. If you're up 3, let's say you go for it and you don't get it, they still got to go very long distance to be able to even attempt a field goal. And we know how college kickers are. You got to go all that way. What happens the second that teams get in field goal range or near field goal range when they're down by 3? Are they still trying to score? No. They get conservative. There have been studies done on this, that if you are up 3 points versus if you're up 6 points, your chances of losing in regulation are damn near exponentially higher being down by 6 than they are being up by 3. That's why it makes even more sense, because you always want to finish the game with the ball in your hand. So that was the education moment. But now I want to cover for a second the Big Ten scenarios. And you guys make sure that you guys go down and like, subscribe, get notifications. And we're going to get to the Big Ten scenarios, but I'm going to peek in the chat real quick. Even if Georgia loses the SEC championship, they're in. Yes, they're going to be in. Because I am not of the opinion that if you get into your conference championship game, you should be guaranteed a playoff spot in the Big Ten and in the SEC. Just saying, because those are the two best conferences, and it's not close. Just saying. But if you got a 3-loss team in, then they got 4 losses, that might be a whole different scenario. Or if they get blown out in the conference championship, especially if it's to a team that they haven't played yet, that could get a little tricky. All right, I'd say yes, Brand. Oh well, yeah, he was responding to them. Yeah, but I think that Georgia is in because they've already beat Tennessee. And they they lost to Ole Miss and they shellacked Texas. So just being that you beat them, it's going to be impossible to put them behind them. And we'll talk about how the SEC and their scenarios up in a little bit. You guys, make sure that you guys go click the like, share, thumbs up, and share with a friend real quick who loves college football. So here are the updated Big Ten scenarios. So you have Oh, excuse me. The Big Ten scenarios are extremely easy. Oregon is not even guaranteed a shot yet. They may be guaranteed a berth in the Big Ten, depending on what happens with the other teams this weekend, like what happens with Indiana and Ohio State, what happens with Penn State this weekend. All of those things are going to factor into it. But Oregon only has one game left because they have a bye. They are pretty much shoo-ins for the Big Ten championship. And the winner of the Ohio State-Indiana game is basically in the Big Ten championship as well. Except if you have Ohio State end up beating Indiana and then turn around and losing to Michigan the next week, that's when things get a little sketchy. But the Big Ten tiebreakers are so convoluted and tricky that we can't even cover them because it's like strength of record versus common opponents. And then like in the Big Ten, you could get all the way down to the 4th and 5th tiebreaker before you get a solution. All right. Next thing up, Colorado, Utah, 49-24. Here are the hard truths that I was going to tell you about Colorado. Number 1, Colorado is playing great football. I love what Deion Sanders has done because his team is not moving in silence. It's weird, right? Because how many commercials do we see? Him, Shador, Shiloh, Travis Hunter, all of these people in commercials, stuff on the internet, all this all the time. So they're not being like silent and going out of the media. No, they're still talking. Deion's doing every press availability, every podcast, every show, everything in between. The difference is that he learned lessons from last year. And Deion is a better coach. It was always going to be some adjustment period going from the FCS to the FBS. But he's figured it out faster than a lot of people did. And the best thing that he's done is hire good quality coaching staff. This defensive line explained it extremely well. And yes, they have another D-line coach, but you can't think that Warren Sapp being in that room on the field is not helping them boys. That they're not significantly better because of that. So this Colorado team has a legitimate shot to make the college football playoff. Yes. Can you believe that? So all of the people that put the bets, because they were one of the betting in terms of the most money put on to win the national championship this year. All of them people that we called stupid, and I say yes, and called foolish, just throwing money away, they ain't so crazy now because they still got a chip in a chair. But the pressure is going to mount on them because they still got 2 games left. They got Kansas, who's upset Iowa State, and then upset BYU this week. So they're the giant killers, season wreckers. And then you got Oklahoma State for them to finish out. So the pressure is going to mount. No, they're not undefeated, that type of pressure. But they know that everything has got to be winning. But here's the thing. Colorado's been under that pressure last year and this year too. So I wonder if being under the microscope so much prior to that is not going to feel very microscopic over the next 2 weeks. And the second hard truth about Colorado, This is hard because I like the kid. Because Travis Hunter moved into the betting favorite for the Heisman Trophy, but he got absolutely cooked on the defensive end versus Utah. He had 5 catches for 55 yards and a rushing touchdown. That was a stat pattern. But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to get mad at Deion or discount Travis Hunter for stat padding when that's exactly what Jaden Daniels did last year to win the Heisman Trophy down at LSU and what the team did. And the same thing that Caleb Williams was doing over there at USC. Yes, they were stat padding. So we're not going to get mad at Travis Hunter and Colorado for trying to make sure he got a touchdown in the same day that he got a pick for like the 3rd time this season or something like that. But we do have to be honest that he got cooked in this game. But this defense, this Colorado defense is much improved. And I'm going to keep throwing this stat out because if you have not heard it yet, you need to hear it. This Colorado team has not given up a 300-yard passer on the season. Yes, that terrible Colorado defense last year that was just given, like, you get a touchdown, you get 100 yards, you get a career day. Last year, that ain't happening. And they haven't given up 200 yards rushing in any game this year. They held Utah 30 carries, 31 yards. 30 carries, 31 yards in a 49-24 victory. And truthfully, they gave up too many points. But they scored so many that you're going to get a lot of opportunities. But they got 3 interceptions. Everything. They were really, really good. But I will tell you this. I don't believe that Colorado will win the national championship, but they might get that Heisman Trophy for Travis Hunter. And that Travis Hunter Heisman means more to Deion Sanders and Colorado than the college football playoff. Now, mind you, let me unpack that. I'm not saying that it means more to the team of Colorado and to Deion Sanders. No, I'm saying that for their future, it means more. I believe that to the team, the college football playoff means more. But to Deion Sanders and his recruiting, especially his recruiting methods, a Heisman Trophy signals, and not by Shador, would signal to recruits, oh man, I'm not even his son, and he'll do me like that. Because if he brings you into the fold, the opportunity, the marketing, the everything, that's going to be real attractive to some kids. Just saying. Because Deion, for anything that you can criticize about him, and none of us are perfect, he makes stars. And he makes opportunity for those in his organization. He does. So I'm excited. I hope that they are able to win the Big 12 because all them people, man, they are going to hate it. And I'm here for all the smoke. Now, the question is, what are the Big 10 conference scenarios? Big 12 championship scenarios. Because it is a little complicated, but I'm going to make it simple for you. This complicated Big 12 scenario, I'm going to make it simple for you. If you go 2-0, if BYU, Colorado, and Arizona State, yes, go 2-0. The team picked last in the conference. And BYU and Colorado, they weren't even picked in the top 10 in the conference to finish. All of them, they go 2-0, you get to the conference championship. Iowa State, they need some help, but not a whole lot. BYU still has ASU and Houston. ASU has BYU and Arizona. That's why I said if you go 2-0. So if BYU beats ASU, ASU's out. Colorado beats Kansas and Oklahoma State. They're in the conference championship. So it comes down really to BYU and ASU. If you go 2-0, you get in the conference championship and you keep Iowa out of the conference championship. So that complicated scenarios and all this and that, it gets real easy. 2-0. That'll clarify it for you. But I do want to talk about Arizona State for a quick second because I know people have not watched Arizona State because we live in a world where Arizona State now controls their own destiny for a playoff spot. Yes. Yes. Are you kidding me? And we live in a world where SMU and Boise could get a bye in the college football playoff while Texas and Oklahoma have to play first round games. And that in and of itself is going to cause Greg Sankey, Big Ten commissioner, he is going to scratch and claw and make it very difficult for the 14-team expansion to happen unless the SEC gets like 2 guaranteed buys, 6 spots, and everything else. But maybe he just wants to have an SEC invitational. Now we got Texas versus Arkansas. This was a 20-10 game. And Texas scored pretty late in the fourth quarter to make this not a 3-point game. Now, the question is for Texas, were they sleepwalking or are they mid? I think neither. It is hard to win, and it is especially hard to win on the road in November. It is difficult because of all the things I mentioned earlier. You get the crowd, you got school, you got the fans. It is hard, and this is where coaches earn their big money. It is in the beginning of the season, having your team ready and, being able to win games in the beginning. Then it is getting better throughout the season. And then in November, it is having your team ready, prepared, and mentally strong enough. And you can't do that during the season. That's done in the off season. Because a lot of people, they think, oh, we got to make sure we're up for the game this week. We got to make sure we're ready. Yeah, there's a little bit of it that week, but the cake's already baked. If you weren't prepared, if you didn't do the work in the off season, it's going to show up when it matters the most. Whether that's film work, weight room, whatever the coach missed out on, it is going to rear its head. And this is where Steve Sarkisian has done a very good job with this Texas team. And a lot of people are going to criticize this performance against Arkansas. But truth is, Sam Pittman has this Arkansas team tough. They played tough with Texas A&M. They beat Tennessee. They got blown out by LSU. They got blown out by Ole Miss, and then they came and played Texas very tough. So this ain't just a layup type of game. And this is where, when it comes to the college football playoff, styles make fights. It's just like boxing. One guy can knock the guy out 5 times in a row. But then somebody else who's ranked higher, who knocked that guy out, can't beat letter B over there. It just happens. And the transitive property does not work in college football, even though that we want to try it. Because if you want to try it, let's try this mental gymnastics. So Texas only managed 20 points against Arkansas, who Ole Miss put 63 on. Then you're like, okay, well, see, Ole Miss beat Georgia. What are we talking about? Well, Alabama beat Georgia. So what does that mean? And Alabama lost to Vandy. What does that mean? That's what the transitive property in college football does not apply. That's another big lie. But Quinn Ewers, though, 20 for 32, 176 and 2 touchdowns. I do wonder if Texas is going to be able to win the SEC because they are headed. They have a guaranteed spot in terms of they control their own destiny. They got 2 games to win. They got to beat Kentucky this weekend, and then the following weekend is going to be for Texas A&M for all the marbles because Texas A&M also controls their own destiny because Texas A&M, they got Auburn this week and Texas the week after. So we could have a Texas A&M showdown for who goes to the SEC and championship. And I'm going to tell you, I love that. And the reason why I love it the absolute most is because when Texas A&M went to the SEC, they did not want Texas following them. They were like, no, we're not letting them come. We're not letting them come. And everybody was like, nah, they can come. Ugh. So to have this here, love it. Absolutely love it. All right, we got Florida versus LSU, 27-16. Florida wins. If Florida just put out a statement recently that they were not going to fire Billy Napier, thought it was perfect timing to help their recruiting class, and it was freaking genius. Because firing Billy Napier would have been a disaster for Florida. And I know a lot of people were pointing because the same week that they announced that they were not firing Billy Napier, that he would be retained for next year, Florida went out and got absolute boat raced by Texas 49-17. And then, but they weren't healthy. Badger wasn't healthy, the wide receiver. DJ Lagway didn't play. They were playing a walk-on at quarterback. But this game here, oh, them boys was back. And firing Billy Napier would have been a bad move because those are the microwave results, people. There's a difference between microwave results and what you see with your own eyes when you see it's getting better. USC fans have been struggling with this same thing. They're like, we should fire Lincoln Riley. Do you realize how much better this defense is? Do you realize how much closer that this team is than they were? Kirby Smart, Billy Napier is the 5th Florida head coach in the last 8 years that Kirby Smart has coached against. That sort of instability is never, ever, ever going to lead to anything positive happening for you. And I have two rules for firing a coach. 2. And this applies because whenever you or anybody else gets a bright idea, we should fire our coach. Let's pay that buyout. Let's switch it up. Somebody else can do a better job. Apply these 2 rules. Number 1, after every single season, every single coach in America needs to be evaluated. Every single season. And 2 things have to be asked. It doesn't matter whether you went undefeated and won the national championship or whether you went completely defeated and went 0-12. Anywhere in between, on the outliers, it works. Number 1 is there a coach I can guaranteed get that will do a better job? That's first question. Guaranteed get. Like, for instance, if you are, let's say, Alabama, right? You think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach, clearly, because you hired him. But if Kirby Smart was available, would you fire Kalen DeBoer? If Kirby Smart was like, I want to leave Georgia, I want to go back to Bama. Hell yeah, you would. Hell yeah, you would. It's just the truth. If you have, another example, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, doing a great job. But if Nick Saban is like, I want to come coach Notre Dame, you're probably going to fire Marcus Freeman. So that's the thing. Is there a coach you can guaranteed get that would do a better job? But those are more rare instances. Or if your coach is just doing an okay job, like let's say things have been going this way with Billy Napier. Is there a coach that Florida can guaranteed get that will guarantee is doing a better job? No, not right now. No. And then the second rule is there a loss of hope? And hope is about the future. Can this dude, the head coach, go into 17 to 22-year-olds between high school and transfer portal players and JUCO players and sell them on the fact that the future is brighter than the past? So if there's a loss of hope and he can't do that, he got to go. So that's how you determine whether you need to fire your head coach or not. Simple rules. And you guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend. I'm going to hop in the chat for a second, see what you guys got going on there. Oh, wow. Here's the chat. Travis Hunter did more for Deion than vice versa. What? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Dude, Deion, now granted, Travis Hunter has been fantastic, but Deion Sanders turned this man into a star. And he might end up getting him the Heisman Trophy by being tangentially applied to him. But that's it. But back to the Florida LSU game for a minute. This was a game where LSU's defense and their holes were more glaring than anything. This did not look like a very well coached team, if we're being honest. Just didn't look very well coached. And that's tough if you are a LSU fan, because Brian Kelly ain't going nowhere. He still got $60 million to go with this buyout. And Florida, on 17 carries, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. DJ Lagway, only 13 for 26 for 226 yards and a touchdown. But the issue lied on the other side of the ball. You ran all these plays. They rushed the ball 44 times, threw the ball 48 times, and came up with 16 points. This Florida defense put you in an absolute headlock. So the defense couldn't get stops. The offensive line couldn't block to save their life. They gave up 7 sacks, a lot more quarterback hits, 11 tackles for loss. This team did not look prepared. And that's the issue. It's not a shortage of talent, because LSU has enough talent on this roster right now to beat Florida. This is a coaching issue right now. You can blame it on assistant coaches. You can blame it on whoever you want. But you know who the buck is supposed to stop with? The buck's supposed to stop with the head coach. So that's where we go. And Brian Kelly said judge him year 4. And in year 4, we got losses to a USC team with 5 losses, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Florida. That's what you got. Do you have some wins in there? For sure. You got 6 wins. But that's not the expectation in Baton Rouge. All right, now we got to go over to Clemson for a minute, because this Clemson versus Pitt game, 24-20. I did not believe that before this game that we would be talking about this game, but we have to, because Clemson is still alive in the ACC Championship picture. And they are done with conference play. So no matter, even if Clemson loses their next 2 football games against South Carolina and the other team they're playing, they will still make the ACC Championship under some certain scenarios, which I'm going to get to in just a second. Because 2 times this year, we have seen what happened in this Clemson-Pittsburgh game, which we have seen 2 times this year, because it was Georgia and Texas game, where we saw plays that were not called penalties reversed after a lengthy pause. And then the right call was ultimately made, but how did we get to that point? That's the issue, because the ACC commissioner has some questions to answer over the Miami incidents, because they've had 3 or 4 ACC replays that have all gone their way. Against Virginia Tech, called a touchdown, no longer a touchdown. No targeted against Cal. Then the other one. And now this, it was clearly a whack to the face of the quarterback. That's a 15-yard penalty. Penalty wasn't called for 5 minutes, damn near. And it's not that people are upset that the right call was made. It's that at Texas, fans threw stuff on the field, then it gets reversed. Officials are not supposed to be looking up at the Jumbotron and seeing that they got it wrong and fixed it. If you put a replay mechanism in where replay can fix it, okay, cool. But that feels like some Buffalo Wild Wings pressing a button stuff. Now, on the Clemson side of Pitt first, though, their game management, penalties, they gave Clemson this game. They found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And Pat Narduzzi and his staff, they're going to look at this game and they are going to throw up. This was a game that they had in the bag. And they blew it. Now, on the Clemson side, though, Dabo Swinney catches a lot of flack over the transfer portal and him not being a part of it and being in it. But I want to give you an example of something that Dabo has done right. And do I think that Dabo needs to be in the transfer portal? 100%. That's the smarter way to do things. However, his quarterback, Cade Klubnik, would have been pushed out from most programs because Dabo will develop his guys. He will give you endless opportunities. And so many teams would have given up on him. Look at what Ohio State did with Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord's better than Will Howard as a passer. That's just the truth. All right, now we got to go on to ACC Championship Scenarios. So this is a little bit, there's really two answers to this test because you got SMU, Miami, and Clemson, who are still really all alive for the ACC Championship. So if SMU wins at least one of its final two games and Miami wins both of their final two games, then the Mustangs, the Hurricanes, they're both going to advance to the ACC Championship game. Now, in this scenario, SMU will either be 8-0 or 7-1 in conference play, while Miami and Clemson will both be 7-1. And the tiebreakers are SMU goes 8-0 in conference, Miami and Clemson go 7-1. Since Miami and Clemson didn't play each other, the tiebreaker would be percentage against common opponents. And they're both have four common opponents: Florida State, Wake Forest, Louisville, and Virginia Tech. Miami went 4-0 against them. Clemson went 3-1. So then Miami would end up in the championship. Now, if SMU, Miami, and Clemson all go 7-1 in conference play, since Miami, SMU, and Clemson didn't play each other, there's a three-way tiebreaker scenario, which would be similar to the win percentage of the conference opponents. Now, the scenario where Clemson can get in as well is that if Miami loses one of their final two games and SMU wins at least one of their final two games, then it would be Clemson versus SMU in the conference championship game for a college football playoff spot. And we got to talk about that for a second because the way the bracket is set up right now, everybody is assuming, they are falsely assuming that Boise State is going to be in the 12 spot. Will they likely be in the 12 spot? 100%, because of especially the way that the committee has shown that they are viewing them at this point in time. They're not moving up as they would. So from this weekend, we got BYU, who moved significantly down the rankings because the AP poll was like, we don't even want to be bothered with them. Now we'll see what the College Football Playoff Committee ends up doing on Tuesday. But right now, the way things stand, if we take it from the AP poll, Oregon still won. Texas would be in the 2 spot. You would have SMU in the 3 spot right now. And then Colorado in the 4 spot. And then Boise State after that. Under that scenario, Boise State would be in the 4 spot. And then Colorado would then be 12 or something. Think about that. That would be very interesting. And we can see a world where Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, or Georgia, Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss end up with road games headed into the college football playoff. And this is something that I believe that the committee, when they're voting, watch the vote this week to see if what they come up with gives Alabama or Georgia a home playoff game. Because that's where the SEC gripe is going to be. Not at getting 4 teams into the playoffs, even though that they want 6. It's going to be not just potentially getting 6 teams in the playoff or 4 teams in the playoffs. The gripe is going to be, well, we're only going to get 1 home game. Watch it. That's coming. We got South Carolina at Missouri, 34-30. Can people stop trying to sell us that every SEC team is a contender? South Carolina is a 3-loss team that is playing well now. And we have seen this movie many times before, where a team surges late at the season, and truthfully, they might be one of the 12 best teams. But it is body of work. How many times have we heard that body of work argument? They lost to four-loss LSU. Ole Miss, they got their doors blown off, and they lost to Bama. So the team that got their doors blown off by Ole Miss and lost to LSU and lost to Bama. Oh, let's put them in the playoff. Yeah, they'll be fine. They're one of the 12 best. Body of work. But I got to give a shout out to Raheem Sanders because that game-winning touchdown for South Carolina, that run, bruh, that was one of them you ain't never got to pay for a drink in this town again type of plays. Him and Lenoris Sellers, oh, they look good. And the future of this Shane Beamer team, dude who was under a lot of pressure this year, potentially on the hot seat, he gonna be able to go into recruiting in 2025 and be like, hey yo, you see what we doing? We gonna knock off some of these teams right now. Just saying. I did want to talk about some games that we didn't want to talk about this week. But these teams are still going to go to the playoff. First team up, Penn State. Penn State beat Purdue 49-10. We are going to spend zero time on this game, 0 minutes. Purdue, everybody beats Purdue. They're the worst team. They're the Vanderbilt right now of the Big Ten. And the way Vanderbilt used to be. Come on now, fam. Ohio State and Northwestern, 31-7. We knew how this was going to turn out. So we're going to spend 0 minutes talking about that game. Ohio State and Penn State both did exactly what they were supposed to do. Now, this game, oh my God. Are you kidding me? How in the world did Alabama survive? Alabama survived Mercer 52-7. I never would have seen this coming. My God, how did they make it through this November cupcake like this? 52-7. Alabama, great job, dude. I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you made it through. Congratulations. Oh, whew. I know it had everybody's heart pumping over there. Not so much. Now back to regularly scheduled programming. Arizona State. We have to talk about Arizona State because this, my friends, is the most underrated story in all of college football. Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham. This team was supposed to be last in the Big 12. Last. And this man and Herm Edwards left. They got sanctions and everything else. Coaches usually absolutely fail in those situations, and nobody wants those jobs. Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State guy, core through and through. Man, this dude is absolutely balling. And I love it. I don't know. And it was funny because I texted him, congratulations on the season. Because I was not expecting this. And he even admitted we weren't expecting this to be this good. And I love it. I love it. But there's a reason why. That is Cam Scatterbull. Cam Scatterbull, their running back, has almost 1,100 yards rushing and 450 yards receiving. So y'all better pay attention to Arizona State in case they get into the college football playoff because they win the Big 12. Better pay attention because Cam Scatterbull, he should absolutely be going to the Heisman ceremony. He's your Heisman winner, folks. He's carrying this damn team on his back. And if you don't know what he looks like, he's a white guy playing running back. And for white guy comparisons, let me help you out. He is not Christian McCaffrey. And no, he's not Toby Gerhart. He is somewhere, if Christian McCaffrey and Toby Gerhart had a baby, it would be Cam Scatterbull. Because he'd be fast, he'd be elusive, he'd be tough. He's played running back for them. He's played wide receiver. He's played quarterback. He's done every single thing that this team needs to do. He's the heartbeat of this team. But there were some, and they beat the hell out of Kansas State, 24-14. Arizona State at Kansas State. Are you kidding me? 24-14? Kansas State was ranked. And you know who Unafraid Show had ranked last week? Arizona State. I'm just saying. You know who didn't? The AP poll. You know who does now? The AP poll. This is why you come to the Unafraid Show, because we got it first. We got it first, and we know it. Always right about this joint around here. But the last thing I want to mention about Arizona State and killing Kenny Dillingham, because this week there were some rumors about Dan Lanning going to the NFL, that NFL has their eyes on him. Number one, Dan Lanning ain't going to the NFL, at least not yet. Kenny Dillingham. People were saying, oh, well, if he goes, Oregon will throw the bag at Kenny Dillingham. Listen, if Dan Lanning left Oregon and Oregon called Kenny Dillingham and threw the bag at Kenny Dillingham would throw the bag back. If Alabama threw the bag at Kenny Dillingham would throw the bag back. That's how much I believe that this dude wants to be at Arizona State. That's how much. He loves it there. It is to his core. And there are few coaches that I believe that they say that they want to be there, and I actually believe them. There are 3. Actually, I'll go a couple more. Let's say 4, 100% sure that I do not believe that they would take any other job offered in college football. Fran Brown at Syracuse. I know he's early there, but I believe it when he's like, I want this to be my last job. I want to win here. I actually believe that. As long as the administration keeps supporting him and everything else, I do believe Fran Brown up there. I believe Dan Lanning at Oregon, that he means it, that he's going to at least be there at least until his kids get out of high school. At least. So that gives you another at least 8 years. Kenny Dillingham. I do not believe you would have to fire him to get him out of Arizona State. I'm just telling you. And Kirby Smart at Georgia. Where the hell are you going to go, Kirby? Exactly. So that's the point. Next game up, Notre Dame versus Virginia, 35-14. I do not know what conversation that Marcus Freeman had with Northern Illinois head coach Thomas Hammock after they lost, but Notre Dame is a different team now. And they're different because they understand who they are. They have an identity. It is clear who they are, because offensively, they are challenged, and they know that. But they went from offensively challenged in the beginning of the season to now offensively competent. They are getting good work out of Riley Leonard, their quarterback. They're not going to get 300-yard games. They're going to get 220, 240. They're going to run the ball well, play good defense, don't make mistakes, and win football games. That's who they are. And so Notre Dame, I picked them against Oregon in the national championship in the beginning of the season. And you know what everybody called me? They called me crazy. They called me stupid. They said, George, you don't know what the hell you talking about. Now what? Both them teams going to be in the college football playoff. Just saying. And then there are 2 more games that we got to talk about just very quickly. Boise State, San Jose State, 42-21. Ashton Jeanty. And why are people not talking about Ashton Jeanty anymore for the Heisman Trophy? They want him to go away. Like another 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, just out there playing extremely well, winning football games, going to the college football playoff. Good job. SMU played Boston College 38-28. SMU is the Rodney Dangerfield of college football right now. They're not getting the respect. The committee, I doubt that the committee will have them in the top 12 this week, despite them playing extremely well. No matter what happens, the SEC just gonna shrink, and then move accordingly. And they just gonna keep leapfrogging SMU. So SMU is gonna have to win the Big 12 to get in. Just saying. The last thing that I want to mention before we get out of here, and you guys, thank you for your time. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend about the show, and share it once this thing is over, is that Nebraska USC game. That was a fight for bowl eligibility. USC actually won. Nebraska's lost like 4 games straight, so they haven't gotten bowl eligible yet, and they haven't had a winning season in 7 years. 7 straight losing seasons for a storied blue blood franchise. And now they still have to try to figure it out, and they haven't yet. And it's getting a little bit nervous because their freshman Dylan Raiola is not playing the best football that he's ever played right now. The team is 5-5. They got Wisconsin next week. I'm taking Wisconsin in that football game. And then they got Iowa after that. So there is no guarantee that Nebraska is going to a bowl game, which is wild. And then you got USC. They still got 2 games left, UCLA and Notre Dame. The UCLA game is this week, and UCLA is playing good football, except in the red zone where they keep turning the damn football over. But USC got a new quarterback, Hassan Longstreet. Juju went and flipped. He going to flip elsewhere. But they got UCLA and Notre Dame. If USC does not beat UCLA this weekend, they're not going to a bowl game either. So imagine USC, blue blood, Nebraska, blue blood, both higher. Matt Rule, Lincoln Riley. Whoa, we're back. 2 straight. Well, it's not as bad for Matt Rule because he's only in his 2nd year there. But Lincoln Riley is in his 3rd year here. Just saying. But you guys, though, that is the Unafraid Show college football wrap-up. You guys make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, and yeah. And, so Sam, I did cover the 4th down play for Oregon and how the play was drawn up perfectly. The execution by one person was not good. But I loved not kicking to go up 6. And I explained it, so you got to go back to the Oregon segment because I spent a lot of time on it, understanding why kicking and going up 6 with about 2 minutes left is a bad idea. But you guys, tell a friend about the show, get notifications. Peace out. Catch you guys actually on Tuesday for another live. And remember, come back to Unafraid Show every single day because we have great content, shorts, live videos, standalones, everything in between. And we're almost to 20,000 subs, people. We are having a huge giveaway for 20,000 subs. Look, I'm gonna show you guys. Show y'all the kind of stuff I got around this joint. So, just so y'all know, let's see. We got signed Drew Brees jerseys we going. We got Urlachers. We got Carson Palmers. We got Reggie Bushes. We got Torrey Holtz. We got Jamal Lewis. We got all sorts of stuff we giving away around here when we get to 20,000 subs. So y'all make sure that y'all share with a friend. Peace out. Catch you later.